It's the perfect photograph, really, isn't it? All over the front of the international newspapers. Florence has been looking through them. It is, of course, Hosni Mubarak on the front pages.
That's right, and here he is on the cover of the International Herald Tribune. This picture really is on the cover of so many international newspapers. It's also here it is on the cover of the Independent, the moment when Egypt proved that its revolution was real. Now, a lot of the international press is focusing on the imagery of this trial, and a lot of the Arabic press is as well. We're going to look at an article in the Daily News Egypt called Mubarak, a Cautionary Tale by Rania al-Malki. And she comes back on the doubts that were floating around yesterday, first of all, whether or not Mubarak would show up to this trial. And she said that a lot of people had to see it to believe it, and that's why these images are so important. No one would have imagined that Mubarak and his apparent heir and his henchmen, she says, would appear in dock. It's the first time in history that an Arab leader is appearing before a civil trial like this. It's a milestone in Egypt's long struggle for democracy, and she speaks out against the people who say that this trial is a humiliation for Mubarak and who say that this trial takes away from the dignity of the state. She says that it's Mubarak who, as president, had no dignity, and so this is not even a valid criticism. And she says that no matter what the outcome of this trial is, today Egyptians have proven that they have written their own constitution, one of zero tolerance to tyranny. But the big question is, of course, what's going to happen next?
Now, you pulled out an interesting piece in The Guardian. This is comparing Mubarak's trial to the trial of Louis XVI here in France.
That's right. It's a piece by Jonathan Jones in The Guardian. This time, the piece is more critical of the caged Mubarak. He calls it pitiful pictures that augur ill fate for Egypt's democratic rising. He says that it's impossible to overstate the visual and spectacular nature of a revolution. Imagery is very important in a revolution. And he says that this image of a caged Mubarak is really revolutionary in its darkest sense. And as you were saying, he comes back on the execution of Louis XVI following the revolution, the French Revolution, and he says that it was a spectacle of revenge. And this situation is also a spectacle of revenge. He says that feasting on images of fallen tyrants is never healthy. And he says that revolutions that have led to a happy democratic outcome have avoided the spectacle of retribution. He takes, for example, the American Revolution. The iconic image isn't one of a severed head, as is in the French Revolution.
And a lot of the international papers also looking at what this might mean for some other Arab leaders. Obviously, Bashar al-Assad and Muammar Gaddafi come to mind.
That's right. We're going to take a look at a cartoon in The Guardian by Martin Rowson. It's a pretty unflattering cartoon featuring Bashar al-Assad and Muammar Gaddafi eating pizza on a sofa in their underwear in front of the television. Now, Bashar al-Assad says, "Yo, girlfriend, you watching Mubarak?" to Gaddafi, and he says, "No way, dude. Not when they're showing reruns of Dad's Army on Dave." Now, that's a sitcom in the UK.
Yeah,
so it seems that neither of them are too worried. Now, a court in Guatemala has sentenced each of them to 6,060 years in prison. That's huge. Now, they've been sentenced for carrying out one of the most notorious atrocities in the country's 36-year civil war. Now, 6,060 years, that's 30 years for each of the 201 people who were confirmed dead in the 1982 massacre of Las Dos Eres, and another 30 years were added for crimes against human rights. Now, it's the first time that soldiers have been convicted for atrocities carried out during the Civil War. NGOs have embraced this decision and hope that it will help heal the wounds of the Civil War.
And just time to talk about Australia.
Yes, this is a straight out of an action movie, it seems. It's a story involving an 18-year-old girl who was attacked in her posh Sydney home by a man wearing a balaclava who proceeded to put what he said was what was suspected to be an explosive collar bomb. Now, we're taking a look at an article in the Daily Telegraph. It's a really unusual incident. Now, it took 10 hours to take this off her neck. Police are now saying that it might have been part of an elaborate hoax to try and extort money from her family.
All right, Florence, that's Florence Filmer then with the International Paper Review this morning here on France 24. Stay with us.